Welcome back to Tabula Rasa. This is our comic book review. Based off of these 5 categories, I'm going to give it either a star, or if I really like it, a star plus. A combination of 5 stars or pluses means I recommend it. More than 5 just simply tells you how much I like the book. Do the YouTube thing, feed the algorithm, and here we go. Halloween means monsters, and one of the most iconic are vampires. And there are many iconic vampires. One in particular holds a special place in the realm of comics and graphic novels. Vampirella, originally a mascot character for a pulp horror magazine in the 60s, or pulp horror comic I should say, experienced a sort of revival in the 90s. This master series contains the storylines that were published in the monthly magazines and a couple specials. This has Ascending Evil, printed monthly number 1 through 3, Holy War, monthly number 4 through 6, The Blood Red Game, which is a 25th anniversary edition, and A Cold Day in Hell, along with interviews by one of the artists, Amanda Connor, and interviews with Grant Morrison and Mark Millar. So, how does this 90s comic stack? Black and white / color. In glorious color is probably what the writers and illustrators thought, and it shows it all in that 90s style. And if this was your first take in this style, it certainly is eye-catching, but if you are in the know, then all it really shows is the style in this era of comics. So it looks good, but it is just surface level. So I'm going to give it a star. It is definitely pro. There's no denying that. Panel and expression. Like the color, it is very much a product of its time, the 90s. There's no flow to it, but then again, not many comics in the United States at this time, even today, has that flow. It usually consists of a centerpiece of art, and surrounding panels are there to kind of support it. And it has the rectangle panels, which I don't like particularly, but it is on the pro level, so I'm just going to give it a star. I'll explain a little bit later in the conclusion. Character and dialogue. The character of focus is, of course, Vampirella, and needless to say that it was done well. Everyone else, it's kind of hard to say. Very much within the American comic book aesthetic, they do tend to focus more on the words and narration to move the story rather than the action and the pictures to move the action. They say show don't tell, and American comics tend to tell a lot. Not that it can't be done well, but in this case, I'm just going to give it a star. Themes and execution. Surface level. We have themes of justice, and we have the mythical themes. A lot of throwbacks from the original series, but it's all surface level. In the 198 pages, it didn't seem like there was anything more than just a pretty picture. So I'm not going to give it a star. I know I said before that themes need not be deep, but that really depends on the genre, and this one definitely looks more to be on the deeper side. But too bad all of that just may have been in the writer's head and not actually shown on the paper. So 0 stars for this. Plot / execution. The story isn't very different from any comic you would pick up from the era. Stuff happens in a storyline, but beyond that skeleton, I don't see much. Just speeds through everything. The only time you'll slow down is because of the risque drawings, which does help with the overall pacing, but the pacing of the story itself, I can't say it was that good. But it was there, bare bones minimum, so this does get a star. Conclusion. 4 stars, which means I won't be recommending it anytime soon. I know, controversy. Nothing against the art. In fact, I love the art. And you might be thinking, well, why didn't I give a star plus to the art categories? Well, I would have if I just read one issue or just the first issue. But as I continued to read the comic, there was an inherent disconnect between the art and the story and the text itself. If Amanda Connor or any of the artists put out a book of their Vampirella drawings, I would buy it. Heck, if you buy this book just for the pictures, that is a respectable position. After all, the pictures are that good. But the comics suffer from one of the cons that many American comics have. That is a lack of flow of the drawings to be able to support the text and vice versa. And considering that this lack of flow is pretty much a staple in American comic books, it clearly isn't an issue with an artist. It just may be inherent with the way that American comic books are made. After all, everything is divided up. The words, the writing, the art, the panels, letters, inking, all that stuff, that's all separate, right? So that disconnect may just come with the territory. But, so if the art is good, that's great. But comic books aren't just pretty pictures. It needs to have that story too. Now, speaking of story, we have Grant Morrison and Mark Millar, who are big names in the industry. You may like them or hate them, it doesn't really matter. But they are the professionals that have been working in the industry for a long time, and the names may have affected my reading of this book. Now, it is safe to say that if you just started dabbling in this comic book medium, this comic book may actually seem pretty good. But if you have been in this hobby for a while, this book may read as derivative. After all, it's kind of hard to stand out from any other 90s era comic book. And if you happen to be a fan of any sort of medium of entertainment, be it TV shows, movies, video games, this stands out even less. All right, let's talk about it a little bit more. So, it has 3 issues per storyline, and I think that's just not enough. The first story we read has Vampirella involved in fighting some sort of vampire mafia and a regular human mafia. So we have this usual story in which Vampirella takes someone under her wing, except that right there probably could have been an easy 6 issues alone, but instead we get 3. So the pacing is quick, and like I said before, it's only tempered by the drawings of pretty women. You'll stop and take a second and look, oh, pretty women, right? Continue on in that story, there's a scene in which the girl that's taken under Vampirella's wing, Dixie, who is being saved by her, vampire sister, Pixie. And what should have been an emotional scene was pretty bereft of emotion, because we have nothing invested in these characters. They show up, they go away. The pacing is just that quick. Now, it may be unfair, but I expected a little bit more from Morrison and Millar, since, they have been part of the industry for a while, right? And they do have a lot of people within the industry that will speak highly of them. Probably not as much now, but, that's only because Twitter is, a toxic wasteland. But all things considered, I thought it was a bit lackluster. Now, if you had the choice between reading the original version that was published in the 1960s and this version, you might be better off reading the stuff in the 60s. Heck, on Comixology, not sponsored, you can get the original stuff, and you'll probably get more of a bang for your buck on it. And if you have Comixology Unlimited, right, then it's for free. You can look at both. So it comes in the original 60s. You can get it in the single issues, or you can get it all together in the Vampirella archives. And for that, I'll probably make another video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please continue to feed the algorithm, and hopefully I didn't cause too much controversy. And I hope you are having a good morning, good evening. Ciao, everybody.